It never gets like right.
Just answer it.
That'd be our arrest.
Probably a deal.
Right. And then in the morning, and then overnight. We're looking at it. Depends on connections and stuff like that. Shift 2 minutes stuff. Right home.
All the acceptance, right? You flip the coin.
No, I mean, I couldn't tell my.
Oh, you flipped the coin?
No, that's what I didn't know. How could it just start?
I know.
We're both several.
Those guys never stop.
At this point,
Never stop talking.
never stop talking. What we're gonna dig into with it.
Who, the
referee for group?
Well, no, an appetite.
I'm
maybe
not the
it's
second
back
youngest
home.
guy at the table.
I mean, Merkel never does.
Yeah. But I mean, either they go, what's John and Mike?
Like, so
Pretty busy. Weiler? From Woodstock?
Windmeyer.
like an hour late.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And his wife.
You're the first person I thought of. I'm standing up there like.
Windmeyer?
Never happens.
It was,
Never.
I walked down, it was
I'm like,
quarter to 12.
well, you know how, they're laughing.
Just don't go
Well,
on.
he said,
Everyone was just
good job.
One more.
picture after picture.
Looking forward to your return.
Yes.
Merkel doesn't stand much.
I'm good. Calling my way out the house. Okay, when we get done. What's going on? Nothing, I'll tell you. I'm like, oh, excited. I'm like, oh,
man.
I doubt it. I can't do anything to
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Monday, October 28th special city council meeting. Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Alderman Santee? Here. Alderman Glab?
Here.
Alderman Schaefer? Here. Alderwoman Bainey?
Here.
Alderman McHenry?
Here.
Alderman Devine?
Here.
Alderwoman Miller?
Here.
Mayor Jett?
Here. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there anyone here on behalf of public comment with items that are not on the agenda? See none. Moving on to item 5 is discussion to approve or deny a conditional use permit for the construction and operation of a medical cannabis dispensary at 408 South Illinois Route 31. And go ahead and open it up for discussion by council. The applicants are here, so if you have any questions for the applicants, please certainly do so.
Doug, you want to repeat?
We're done. Yeah, Doug. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Jett. I'll just quickly go through the property zone C5 contains a multi-tenant building with several uses. The applicant is seeking a conditional use permit to allow the construction of a medical cannabis dispensary at 408 South Route Illinois 31 and is required to obtain a medical marijuana a conditional use permit to allow a medical marijuana dispensary at the subject property because the city's zoning ordinance permits dispensaries as conditional use permits in the C5 zoning district. Criteria for conditional use permit approval include traffic, environmental nuisance, neighborhood character, public service and facilities, public safety and health, and other factors. Staff did have some concerns with traffic and public safety and health with regards to this particular site. The proposed site is currently very heavily utilized by 2 restaurant uses, particularly in the morning and during the lunch hour. Parking is sometimes very difficult at this location, and with the proposed free flow of traffic and optimal internal circulation is very important, and permitting the proposed use jeopardizes this issue. The site does have multiple ingress and egress points. However, the ingress-egress is right in, right out, to and from, onto the site from Illinois Route 31. For council's reference, the crash reports are from the police department were put into the staff report are in the staff report and listed in a chart are listed in the staff report from the site, leading to the site, and adjacent to the site. Finally, public safety and health is a concern. This is a very busy shopping center with multiple uses, points of access, cross-access, drive-through to the south, access driveway to the east, the fueling center, access to Knox Drive, Route 31, centers to the south, and eventually Bull Valley Road. Staff believes it's a very busy center to potentially integrate a use such as the one being proposed. Internal circulation, as previously stated, is challenging, and this, along with the center not being very pedestrian friendly, is a public health and safety and welfare is a concern when introducing this type of land use. There are limited sidewalk areas, and the owners had introduced traffic speed reduction bumps within the parking area. Having the proposed use with its own dedicated parking area would be ideal. There's a lot going on, in essence, in this shopping center. And there's a potential for something dangerous to occur because of all the activity within the aforementioned and adjacent centers. People are constantly coming and going and walking distances from the parking spaces to the building, going in and out of the businesses, etc. And as you can see, the fire rescue calls are taken at the site were also listed in the staff report, as well as other calls for service are in the staff report as well. The Planning and Zoning Commission did consider the case. They unanimously recommended approval of a conditional use permit to allow medical cannabis dispensary on the property at 408 South Route 31, subject to several conditions. I won't read them all. They're all listed in the agenda supplement. Staff's recommendation at this point is staff does not believe it meets the criteria outlined in Table 31 of the zoning ordinance, and additionally, due to the concerns outlined in the staff report, recommends denial of the application for medical cannabis dispensary at 408 South Illinois Route 31. Back to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Doug.
And before you go to the council, could I have the applicant step up just for a minute so I can ask a couple of basic questions to get some facts out? I wasn't at the zoning hearing.
You can state your name for public record, please.
Mitch Zavadoc.
Craig Crandall, counsel for the applicant.
And so I'm the city attorney, and I just have a couple questions because it's unclear of where medicinal is in the state of Illinois. So you've applied for a state license for medicinal at this location?
Yes, we have.
And what's the status of that application?
It is currently under review by the state of Illinois. We hope it's a rather black box in that system, in that, you know, once you send in an application, they don't give a lot of transparency as to what they're doing or what their when their response time is.
Okay, and
So,
do you know whether there's any other medicinal applications pending for locations in McHenry County?
I believe the answer is none.
Only yours?
Correct.
And what's the proposed timetable on having the state approve or deny that application?
Again, it's not a transparent operation down in Springfield, and so much to my dismay, because it would surely make my business much easier if I had clarity to these answers, but I do not. So anybody's best guess as to what Springfield will do.
The rumors we're hearing is that there's only five medical applications, 5 medical licenses that may be issued by the state over and above the existing 55. Is that true?
That is correct. So what happened was in the original issuance of the medical program, there were 60 licenses granted. 55 of them have been issued. 5 unissued licenses remain. Those are Kankakee County, DeKalb County, McHenry County, South Township in Chicago, and Hyde Park Township in Chicago. Our company is seeking as many of these as we can get in order to vertically integrate our company. We already have a cultivation license from the state of Illinois down in Effingham, Illinois, and we would like to, right now we're selling our product to other dispensaries. We would like to be able to fully integrate our business operations, sell it up here. So that's what our plan is right now.
Okay, and the other rumor we're hearing is that those 5 won't be issued by the state until after the 75 recreational proposed to be issued are dealt with by the state. True or no?
That is purely rumor, I would say, because I have no clarity on that. And I can tell you that, of the 21 cultivation licenses in the state of Illinois, they're held by 17 companies. We are one of those 17, so we have a high degree of confidence that we will be accepted, and we've already been vetted thoroughly by the state and been accepted as a company that they are willing to work with. So that's one thing on our side. We are also actively applying for, and I'd rather not give publicly the exact number, but suffice to say, a sufficient amount of recreational licenses on our behalf as well. To be frank, we really like this location, and whichever license shows up first, we'll probably apply it here. But we do have, the medical is already in play, and recreational is, those haven't been submitted yet to the state. I believe they're ready to be submitted sometime in November. The FAQs are due out this Friday. So we're trying to stay ahead of the game.
So at zoning, I was told that you indicated you were not interested or qualified, or your business plan didn't call for recreational. Is that still true?
So the business plan is to open up a dispensary here in Kankakee, in McHenry as quickly as possible. The only avenue by which to open it right now is through the medicinal, through the 5 unissued medicinal licenses. Therefore, that is my current business plan, to pursue that and get that as quickly as possible. We are also simultaneously pursuing, as I said, several recreational licenses. This is a conditional use permit here for medicinal. If we got a recreational license, I would certainly be back here in front of you and ask for a special use permit for recreational.
At the same location?
Yes.
And do you have an advantage if we were to approve medicinal tonight? Does that give you any kind of extra points, or however it's graded by the state, being an existing medicinal, at least locally?
And I hate to keep referring to this black box, but no, once you submit to the state of Illinois, they don't give you an opportunity to, embellish your application saying, hey, now we've gotten a little bit step further along in our local city applications and due diligence locally. What we do submit to the state is a full description of this property, so the state knows this is the property we are looking to apply for. They have all of they check it out. Go ahead.
What I'm saying is the opposite. When and if you apply for recreational, will you make a representation in there, if it were to survive tonight, that you've been approved for medicinal from a local standpoint, not from a state, but from a local standpoint in the city?
So that raises a very interesting question, and the current recreational application is slightly different than the last year's or the current medicinal application. So the recreational application doesn't actually ask for a piece of real estate to be identified and tells you we would like to issue the license to the company And then once the license is issued, the company has 180 days to identify a site anywhere they want. I think you have to apply, actually not anywhere you want, you have to apply within, I believe it's 21 or 22, it's not just the police districts, they've sliced up the state into certain pies. McHenry is in a spot where there will be either 3 or 4 recreational licenses. We are going for one in each and every one of the, well, or most of, I really, again, don't want to give up my full business plan, but suffice to say, we are seeking recreational licenses such that, you know, hopefully we will get them and.
But the decision by the board tonight
Yeah.
is not relevant to your application for recreational. Would that be fair?
That's absolutely true, because no, it wouldn't be germane to anyone's application for a recreational license, because again, the physical application doesn't ask for a physical address.
Okay.
I suppose you could sneak it in into your comment section. It is quite a lengthy application that they're asking for, but they also give you a point system that's 250 points as to how they're gonna grade your winning application, and there are no points awarded for real estate on the recreational side.
Okay, we just didn't know the process.
No,
Okay, I get
trust
it.
me, we're learning it as Springfield's issuing the documents to us, so, and we're still waiting on the final documents this Friday, on the recreational side. But like I said, we're trying to get ahead of the game, and if we can get a place that's, you know, built out and permitted and ready to go, then all the better.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna open up for questions by council to the applicant. Is there any questions for the applicant? Alderman Santee?
You brought it up already, sir, about the location. Tell me why this location, tell me why McHenry.
The county itself is, we want a little bit of dispersion amongst our geographic base and coverage. You know, Chicago is our home base, so the collar counties are certainly areas that we were interested in. So once we've identified that we wanted to be out in the collar counties surrounding Chicago, I'm the vice president of real estate for the company, and it's my job to identify these sites. So I just happen to like the location of McHenry, your proximity to the lake, to Crystal Lake, to all the other population centers, seems to be nicely situated in the center. I like the traffic count, you know, going past on.
The traffic count on the state route 31?
Yeah, just there's some visibility here. I think it would be easy to get to. This site would be, you know, relatively easy to get to for people. It's centrally located within the county, and I also really enjoyed the property. The property owners have taken extremely good care of the property. It fits well, design, size. You know, I searched for quite a while before I landed on this property. So this was not you know, this is the only property I am looking at right now in this county, because it's the right property in this county.
And so once you focused and found that location, I understand, pursue the property owners, and then you came to our staff, administrative assistant Martin, and deputy administrator, excuse me, Martin, and discussed the location with him then, correct? Is that the steps here? Property owner first, and then brought it to?
Yes, property owner first, and then starting to go through the steps and engaging Craig to you know, go through, help walk through some of the steps at the municipal level.
And one more thing, just to follow up on, you brought up there's 55 medical licenses right now, and there's 5 new ones that are available.
5 that were never issued.
That were never issued.
Yeah.
And you went through the locations that they're going to be dispersed in, one of them being in this pie or this area of McHenry County, correct?
Yeah.
But you're also, processing those other areas for potential locations there too, correct?
Yes.
You are?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if this is a question that can be answered tonight, but do we have any idea of how many McHenry County residents have the medical marijuana
So
license, or whatever the
I did endeavor to.
prescription, yeah, I'm sorry.
So the HIPAA restrictions prohibit them from getting down into that level
Not
of
even,
detail.
not a number?
I do believe it's in statewide, it's over 30,000 patients, but I don't believe they've broken it down by the county.
Doug, do you have that?
Well, actually, I got qualifying patients by county of residence,
Wonderful.
1470 McHenry
Okay.
County.
All right, do you happen to have Lake County?
Yes.
1470 is 1400.
Yes.
Yeah, Lake County's 3,652.
Okay. Closest dispensary medical is Mundline, right? That would be the closest, that's closer to Buffalo Grove?
Yeah.
Right, however, there is there one in Elgin, or is there one being proposed in Elgin?
The closest actual open
Actual
facility
open right now
is
is Mundelein.
Mundelein.
All right. That's all I have for right now, thank you.
Any other, Alderman Schaefer?
Yeah, I have several questions. Mine are mainly concerning the building. When we spoke with other representatives before, they were always looking at, it wasn't just a standalone building, but because of the access for the vehicle to pull in and things like that, they were looking much greater than the size of this building. Is that to me looks like it may be an issue, because you're taking up parking for that entrance to where the truck's gonna pull in and out too, correct?
Yeah, that, we did have to accommodate the secure loading of the Sprinter van that would be coming in and out with the product.
And there's no rear access in this building, correct?
No. I mean, there's a fire, there's a personal door in the rear for a fire door that
Okay.
will not be, per our site plan, the public won't have access to that door. I mean, of course, in the event of a fire, everybody would, but, so to answer your question, we operate dispensaries all over the country, and I've got experience with operating in our, for instance, our smallest dispensary is in Edwardsville, Pennsylvania, and it's 1,900 square feet. This is about 3,600 square
Right,
feet.
yeah.
So even with the amount of space that's taken up by the delivery bay, this is still what I would think would be, what I know to be an adequate size for a medical dispensary, no problem. If it had to be a recreational dispensary, it would still be of sufficient size. There's potential we could expand it in the center if we needed to, potentially, but really 3,600 square feet with a delivery bay, that's a pretty good size. I've seen them as small as 500 square feet out in California, where it's almost just like a walk-up counter. Here, the amount of space is really driven by what is the state requires in terms of rooms that they want to see. So in Illinois, they want to see a separate room for IT that is secure and independent from every other room. They want to see a vault that's separate from every other room. I have to have a separate break room. I have to have a men's and women's restroom for the public and a men's and women's restroom for the patients, for the patrons or the patients, as we call them. So all of this is driving the need for a little extra space. But other than that, really, the whole shopping experience when you walk into a dispensary, more or less, is picking items from, the items aren't stacked where you fill it up in a shopping cart. You go and identify something in a glass case.
Right.
And I want one of these, 2 of these, and 3 of these.
Is it the same in a medical as it is in recreational? I thought it was more doctor office type thing in a medical.
So that's a great point. Amongst, as I was saying, the required spaces for a medical dispensary, we are required by state law to have what's called a consultation room. The consultation room would be a private room where somebody could come in and have a private consultation with a physician or a pharmacist. We are also required to have one of those on staff as well. So in Pennsylvania, we have one that goes from dispensary to dispensary where we operate medical dispensaries there. In other locations, we have you know, recreational dispensaries where that isn't an issue. But we would have staff hours where a pharmacist would be on staff in the consult room to be available.
Do you see it as a, I probably don't know your answer, but do you see it as an issue? Because in the medical side, I'm assuming it's going to be likely a higher percentage of people that have issues possibly being handicapped or getting to the building. And there's really no sidewalks here. And then when the vehicle's there,
Yeah.
it's even more space, so.
That's, you know, it's a good point, and I think, you know, I think your typical medical cannabis patient is somebody that is perhaps an Army vet that's dealing with PTSD and really is, you know, completely, you know, ambulatory, but, and you know, can get around fine on a place without a sidewalk. There is a sidewalk in front of the units, by the way, a little strip.
Yeah.
Between you get to between the cars and the building. The cars don't go right up to the building. So that's one thing I would say. There is a sidewalk there that, you know, I would know because we're responsible for clearing the snow on it, so.
Right. From some of the other, from the whole parking lot
Yeah,
itself.
you know, that's really no different than, you know, somebody going to the Jewel or to the Costco or any of the other big stores. In fact, this is a strip center. It's not, you know, this isn't a big shopping center or.
No, our concern, or my concern, is just because of there is a high flow of traffic between 7 and 2 o'clock there because of the 2 restaurants.
Yes, and that's, so, you know, just to hit that topic right off the bat, it really isn't what you asked initially, but you're getting to it now, is that breakfast, you know, I believe it's called Nosh, or what's the? Brunch.
Brunch cafe.
Excuse me. Brunch cafe, its busiest times apparently are Sunday between, you know, 7 a.m. and 2. Currently, our business model is our dispensaries aren't open on Sundays. If we were to decide to open on a Sunday and we saw that we would probably just open late after 2 o'clock and resolve that problem immediately. But that's really not, we don't see that as an issue for us based on, we actually see it as very complementary use, quite frankly. It's gonna drive in people that are gonna be able to see and know that the center is there, and it just, we keep it in mind. So that's where the new, cannabis dispensary is, and it'll drive a little bit of visual advertising in that regard. And our busiest times, and I know this from, operating multiple dispensaries all over the place, is after 4 p.m. Typically our customers are not early risers.
Thank you. Also, where will the employees park?
So there is a spot around the corner, where the current employees of the brunch cafe park, and we'll probably ask that our employees park there or, in the furthest away areas of the center. We're only gonna have probably 6 employees at any one time. That's kind of a standard staffing for a dispensary of this size for us. So we're not talking about that many cars, but yeah, there would be those 6 cars that would occupy somewhere within the center, but not prominently. We would for certain make sure that.
Because I think that part is pretty much full from the brunch cafe employees as well, so.
And again, that's, those would be at hours that we're not
Right.
typically, we're not operating at those hours. And I don't know that the brunch is that busy during the week, so if we open at 9 or 10 on a weekday.
They actually do a fairly decent business Monday through Friday as well. Yep, they do very well there.
I'm looking forward to eating that.
Yeah, I recommend it.
Haven't eaten there yet, but
Going back to the employees too, I was reading in the,
thank you.
The planning and zoning that it was discussed that it's like a 1-to-1 for patients and employees.
There is a waiting area, so people, if there's overflow, they would wait in the waiting area. It's not that there's gonna be people outside, but within the sales area, we don't allow more than 1 person in the sales area per employee.
Okay.
So-
Is the security person counted in that ratio?
Again, a lot of this is we're getting some finality from the regs as we go from the state of Illinois.
My main question
Yeah,
is,
I
and
mean,
don't
you know,
know
we're
if
gonna
it's-
have 3 or
if it's
4
part of the
states.
law, is it,
Uh-huh.
if there's 6 people in that room, there's 6 employees in there with them, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So an IT person or a security person on camera is gonna be a separate employee count. That's how I interpret it.
Yeah, it could be that it's 6 employees in the building. Honestly, I don't know. I'm embarrassed to say I don't know the answer to that level of detail. It does vary state to state. We certainly comply with all the state regs. We get spot we go through spot checks all the time for these types of activities, but.
And then I have one last question.
Yeah.
The other, in this situation, you have common walls with some of the other people. Will they have to add more security and cameras and things like that
No.
for their business? Cause I mean, that's a common wall, I've seen it in
I'm
movies.
picturing a little mouse
That's-
hole, right?
That's how
that
you
they're
get in.
that they're gonna
That's-
climb
That's
through.
where you go.
So, yeah, if just like in the cartoons, if they create them, obviously that's illegal.
Kids do it in that one movie.
And,
No, I think that's a legitimate thing, especially from a security standpoint.
we would certainly be working with your local law enforcement. Are some of those load
Yeah,
bearing
I was
or?
gonna say, on the demising walls between tenants,
Yeah.
sorry, John Swark, DDCA Architects, architect for Mitch.
Yeah.
On the demising walls, behind the drywall, we do this in a lot of retail facilities, including some banks. There's a security mesh that's high-strength steel. It looks like a wire mesh fence that's behind the drywall. So if
Is
you
that
try-
included on the 2 sides here that we show in our drawing? Those would be on those
Yeah, so it'd
specific
be like,
between
you look at the drawing, the left side
408,
of the delivery
404?
bay, the left side of the delivery bay, the entire vault would be secure, obviously. And then all the walls adjoining Tail Say Salon,
Yeah, 410.
this dispensary side would have the security mesh.
And it's not there now, it would be included.
Correct.
That's all I have for right now, thank you.
Thank you. And I can embellish the answers regarding the parking too, by the way. We did a little parking count over the weekend. The architect's firm did it, and there, always was ample parking. So I'd be willing to share this with the committee if you want. I don't know if is this all the same document, John?
Yeah, I can go through it quickly if you want.
Yeah. He was the one that conducted the study.
So
in favor.
basically
Numbers
random
were
dates
favorable.
from middle of September through end of October on different given days. I did these always around lunchtime because it's usually the busiest time for brunch cafe. Anywhere from 12:30 to noon to 11:45. There's a variation of 51, 17, 33, 15, 62. These are spaces open at lunchtime during the week. And then Saturday, I just did it last Saturday, I had an employee sit out there from 10 o'clock in the morning to 2 in the afternoon. Every 15 minutes, he counted open parking spaces. 10 o'clock, there was 11, 10, 15, 22, 24, 18, 24, 18, 20, 28 at 11:45, 27, 34. These are spaces open. So there's really, I don't see a parking issue there. Sundays, yes, it's a fairly full parking lot. And like you said, it would probably not be open on Sundays anyway. So if you want a copy of this, I can submit that. I have one there if you want it.
I have one last question while you're there.
Sure, go ahead.
Did we add the speed bumps, or was that, you guys?
I did it on, I'm Rosemary Swark, I'm a managing member of RJ Properties, the owner of the.
Rosemary, can you step up to the podium real quick?
Sorry. Rosemary Swark, managing member of RJ Properties. I did it on our own accord. No one requested it, no, we just did it.
And why?
Just an abundance of caution. Again, Brunch Cafe didn't have the concern, and obviously a lot of the traffic's flowing from them. We just did it as an abundance of caution. And if you look where they placed it, as people from Brunch are coming out, the bump is there, and people are very slow to go over it. I also, want to take the opportunity too, Doug said that you can see all the traffic reports and the calls. John did Freedom of Information Act, and we pulled everything. Not one of those calls is reflective of anything in my center. Not one of them.
Those
There's-
reports are all for different addresses. They were in your.
409 North Front Street, we're 400 to 414 South Route 34.
Most of them were Dr. Erslinger and Visions Hair Salon, if you look at those.
We've got the individual reports on. They're, to the best of my knowledge, since I've owned the shopping center, since RJ Properties has owned the shopping center since 1997, there's that one accident there.
Thank you.
Any other questions by council? Alderwoman Miller?
So I've probably done more research on this independently than I ever expected to do, so thank you, Mitch, for that challenge. So I just have a couple questions so they understand the process, because we're concerned about human safety. So Doug gave me the information that there are 1,470 card-carrying humans that would be potential patients of your medicinal cannabis dispensary. How often do
Located
they,
here. I mean, they could-
potentially in McHenry County,
Yeah.
how often do they come to a dispensary?
I mean, it depends on the patients. I think typically one would say probably once every 1 to 2 weeks.
Okay,
Yeah.
and that's what I found through my research, that
Good.
they ran from every 2 weeks, just like you would get a prescription at Walgreens, to more like once a month. And I understand that they have to register at a dispensary, and that is their dispensary of choice, and then that is monitored to the volume of the
Yes.
prescription.
Correct.
Okay, so let's assume you get 100% of the 1,470 humans that come. Oh, and you're smiling, so
Well,
that would be good.
Yeah, that would be great if I get 100% saturation, that, you know.
So, and let's make an assumption that you're open 24 days a month, because you're closed on Saturday, or on Sundays. So that would be, let's call it 15 humans a day, I think. Let me do that math. So that'd be more than that. So 1,470 divided by 24 days is 61 humans a day.
That's about
divided by
40 to
8
60 patients a day.
divided by 8 hours a day is 7.6 patients per hour.
That's about
And
right.
and you have 5 sales centers or five
Cash
sales spots?
registers, yeah.
So that would tell me that each of those humans could spend a half an hour making their purchase. Does that sound about a normal process?
I think you've hit your numbers, you did your research very well. Some people spend a lot less time than that, but, you know, industry averages and, you know, sometimes people like to sit around and kibitz a little bit when they come, but for the most part, it's, you know, 30 minutes, I would say, is the max.
So in my independent research, which was phone calls to a variety of individuals, they shared with me that that experience is typically around 10 minutes, that they know what they want, they go in, they have that communication,
Like I said, very
they
quick.
make their choice, the person goes in the vault, they package it, they walk out, they're escorted through the man lock, and it's done and they're over. Would that be typical of what your dispensaries experience?
Absolutely.
Okay, so it wouldn't be unreasonable to expect 7 people to be able to get in and out fairly quickly if 10 minutes is 10 minutes to a half an hour to be their experience?
We could have some good turnaround, yes, that's our hope too.
So if that's a normal number, and assuming you have 100% capture rate, which we would all like to think we have great marketing and we can, how many people do you think would be waiting in your reception if those 7 people, so 5 people are in sales, 2 people are in reception? Do you think that would be a constant flow all day for those 8 hours? Or if most of your people will come after 4 o'clock, are we doubling that after 4 o'clock?
You know, and I think each, you know, I hesitate to get that specific on any one location without knowing how each location operates. Once it's open, you can see a stabilized level of, you know, we'll study the times. I have, for our Pennsylvania medical dispensaries, for each dispensary I have number of patients per day, number of patients at every hour. We track it, we change the staffing for it. So all this, will certainly be handled. We also can adjust the incentives, if you will, for our patients to come at times that are more off hours for us, and give them sales and discounts. A certain product line will be offered for sale on Tuesdays, and if you come on,
Happy hour.
Well, we aren't allowed to call it happy hour, but in our, as we say in our business, every hour is happy hour.
So do you have
but
any
yes.
control in your business to say,
Sorry.
instead of coming twice a month, you only come once a month?
No.
You don't have that control?
No,
Okay,
no. We can entice them by,
okay.
offering, there's also a restriction on the number, you can't load up you can't buy 6 months worth
Correct.
and so that's just can't happen, so.
And that's my understanding, that there's
Right, people are gonna
limitations.
come on regular intervals anyway. What we can do is provide enticements for them to come at hours that are, gonna be more convenient for everybody. So that's how we would handle that.
If I could add to clarify
Yes.
the number of people coming in and out.
Mhm.
Brunch Cafe, open from 7 to 2, during the week, that's 600 people in and out every day. So if we're talking 7 or 12 an hour,
Right.
it's really a very minimal.
Yeah, it's extremely manageable. This is, thank you, John, and thank you for putting that into perspective, really, if I would be delighted if I had 8 people there, and nobody would, all the time, it won't happen, 6, 4, and, 5 or 6 inside and 2 or 3 waiting to get inside. It doesn't happen like that, maybe when we first open, because it'll be exciting and new, for a couple weeks, but, normally it's a good, easy traffic flow of people going in and out of these places.
And that's been my conversation as well.
Nobody,
I've
nobody
asked
waits.
that to the
Yeah.
people that I've had conversations
Uh-huh.
with. I've said, how often do you wait? How often are you in reception? When you go to other dispensaries, what's your experience? And that's exactly what they've said. They're like, it works itself out.
Yeah.
We very rarely have to wait. We figure out when we go, and we go in, we do our purchase, and we walk our way out. Because frankly, I was very concerned about the amount of foot traffic and, how many people are gonna be parked there. But after the conversations I've had, and obviously talking with people that were just interested, I'm much more assured that that's the process. I've not been to a dispensary, I had no clue, so thank you for that input.
Thank you for your questions.
I'm good.
Thank you. Alderman Benny?
To kind of add to what Ms. Miller was talking about, how do you think the traffic flow or the amount of people coming through might fluctuate if in fact you got a recreational license or converted to one down the road? I would imagine that there's more people, but do you have any idea?
It certainly opens up the number of available customers to us. I mean, that's obvious. In terms of the medicinal customers tend to be a little bit more regimented in their approach to coming in certain cycles. There tends to be, because we do operate recreational dispensaries, and those tend to have a little bit more cyclicality around holidays and weekends, prior to weekends, not during weekends. And believe it or not, Mondays is a really busy day. I guess people restock, I don't know. It certainly will increase it, but again, that also has found its way to work its way out in terms of people knowing when to go. In the recreational customers tend to come towards the later side of the day than the some of the medicinal customers might come sporadically throughout the day. Most of your recreational customers will gravitate, a little bit later in the day, which is, for this center, is good because they're busy in the mornings. And so, by the time brunch clears out, we've pretty much got, 60, 70 parking spots to ourselves. We wouldn't need anywhere near that, but that's what was one of the original attractions to me of the center was, I was, wow, look at all the parking here. So it's actually kind of funny that we're sitting here talking about parking being a problem, whereas that's one of the prime attractions to me to the center.
Yeah, and I agree. I don't actually think parking is quite the issue that we've been talking about, but I was just curious. And the process is the same whether it's medicinal or recreational, short of that consult room, as far as how many people come in, what that process for gaining access
Correct.
is. Okay.
Yeah, where the man trap will maintain and stay. The vault will be all secured, all the biometrics will be in place, the security guard, everything. The only difference will be, as you said, the council room.
Thank you.
Alderman Glenn?
Yeah. For clarity, I applaud Alderwoman Miller the fact that she did all this homework. Thing is the numbers that we are looking at are average. Now, I've worked in retail all my life, and I'm sure everybody in this room has shopped Target, Walmart, Kmart, all these discount stores, Meijer. All through the day, you see where there's not enough checkout operators, and all of a sudden you see a big rush from the sales floor of people coming out there to open up registers. Because of the fact that you don't know when the customers are gonna come. You could have 3 hours of nobody walking in that door, and all of a sudden 9 people walk in, or 10 people. So, looking at the average is real easy to kind of smooth out how low those numbers are, but you're gonna have high peaks and low as well. So there is a difference there. Now, another question I had is how is it that when you came to McHenry, how many different parcels did you look at? How many parcels did you look here in McHenry of where you'd like to put this dispensary?
So, the truth of the matter is I looked at a lot of different properties in surrounding areas in the county.
Mm-hmm.
And I stumbled across this one rather fortuitously when it was the first one I looked at in the city of McHenry proper, not just the county.
Mm-hmm.
But I probably looked at 30 in the county.
But how many did you look in the city of McHenry is what
One.
I asked? Just one, okay. That's what I'd like to know. Why is it that you didn't look at the areas near the hospital, near all the medical facilities? You know, how many facilities actually give chemo in the county of McHenry? I think there's only one. I think it's behind the shop where they built that out. And those are people that definitely need some medical marijuana. And wouldn't it be nice to have it convenient when they come out of there that there's someplace close as possible in a medical area to have medical marijuana?
So there.
Why wouldn't we look at the medical areas?
There is a zoning issue, so I will say I didn't just randomly drive to McHenry and get that lucky. I was fully aware of what all the zoning requirements were in all of the suburbs, because we have a research staff. I'm getting there, that will tell me.
I understand what you're saying about the
So
zoning.
I don't believe that the area next to the hospital is even a permissible area for us to even look, in terms of zoning. So and I think the patients that we cater to aren't all, like I said, a lot of them are just PTSD patients. From, they're not getting chemotherapy, they're not going to a hospital. They're just, stress seems to be one of the bigger causes or if you will, prescriptions that people gain access for a medical card. So I think that those are the, if you have to think about your typical patient, yeah, there are gonna be your chemo patients that it is an antiemetic and allows you to hold your food down better.
If I were to look as a regular shopper for anything, if I was looking for furniture, I would look in an area that had furniture. If I was looking for something in building materials, I would go to areas that would have building materials. If I'm looking for something medical, I'm going to medical areas, and that's where I would think something like this belongs, and not in the middle of, next to food places. Okay? My opinion, fine, but that's how I feel. Plus the fact that I made this statement when we first talked about the ordinances and everything else, and the fact that I would not be in favor of anything down our main strips through the city of McHenry, because I'm not out to advertise for marijuana. It should be further back in a location that can serve those constituents that need the medical cannabis, but not to where we're advertising it on our main roads. We already have reputations of as far as the largest amount of gambling, the largest amount of liquor licenses. I don't really want to get into advertising marijuana down our main roads, and that's my feeling. I'll leave it at that.
Alderwoman Benny?
Just to be clear, because at our last council meeting, we were discussing recreational dispensaries. the goal here, or hopefully it wouldn't always be strictly medicinal. So if the opportunity poses itself to convert to recreational, or if you get that recreational license, being in a medical campus really wouldn't serve you whatsoever, correct?
Correct.
And one thing I'm not sure, that I've never heard brought up in our conversations, and it's maybe just an education issue for council, is there is a caregiver's license in the state of Illinois as well for somebody who maybe was terminal or going through chemo, and maybe you could explain that, because I think people think that we've got people coming in wheelchairs or on their deathbed trying to gain access.
Thank you very much for opening it up and for phrasing the question in that way. And the caregiver's license is, and I wish I was armed with the percentage of what that is, and I don't know if HIPAA would allow that, and maybe you have that information. My staff researcher over here, but so what happens is for the people that are very ill, that need this medicine in order to walk or just to hold down very extreme chemo patients, they have a caregiver, and the caregiver is usually their a daughter or son, niece, nephew, somebody extremely ambulatory that would be going, that isn't using the product, that is just going to drive to the center, pick it up, show the card, get it for the patient, and come back. So thank you.
Any other questions? Alderman Sandy?
I appreciate the research Alderwoman Miller did in regards to the county. And then also I asked for the Lake County number, and it's considerably higher, so there's more patients there. And just in my time of commuting, whether it be towards the city or towards the lake, there's definitely a west to east commute that happens every day, and then also a northwest to southeast commute. And I look at the potential of that Lake County number, especially western Lake County, because we are on the eastern edge of McHenry County, that you are going to attract, I would say, a considerable number of Lake County medical marijuana people. So I see the McHenry number, but I gotta believe that there's gonna be a certain, so don't worry about that 100%, because I think you could grab it from western Lake County. Let me tell you that right now, because they're not gonna want to commute. They're not gonna want to go east-west. They're gonna want to come out this way because it's an easier commute. I mean, that's just growing up, just knowing it and being through that traffic patterns. So I see that as a concern in regards to traffic going in and out of that parking area, in regards to that amount of potential clients that will come to that facility. So it's definitely a concern, because I see that, and the way that now is designed with the state highway, you have easy access there when you're northbound on 31, getting in, getting out, and heading northbound and continuing your travel pattern. But if you're looking at a higher percentage, I'm going to go back and forth here between the McHenry County residents and now Lake County, but if you've got McHenry County, now you've got virtually most of your, I don't know where they're located, let's say maybe a higher percentage of patients that are going to be coming west to east in McHenry County. Now, how are they going to get into that facility? They're going to figure out a way, which a lot of local citizens, I myself, are going to go, like we're going into McDonald's, and we're going to come back up the back edge and come into that back entrance of the restaurant. And then also when they're coming northbound on 31, they could make a U-turn and come in that way, or also go about into this municipal center and come that way. So I see some concerns in regards to traffic patterns that I don't know how, if it was ever a problem, how those issues could be resolved. So, and I'm going to go back to your statement about the speed bumps. why are speed bumps installed in a parking lot?
So,
Let John answer.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you, if you, go ahead.
And I'd just like to say that in the little bit of time that I've known John and Rosemary, these are two extremely cautious.
Sure.
Landlords, and I deal with landlords all the time. So the fact that these two individuals of all landlords
Yeah.
installed speed bumps doesn't surprise me a bit.
And I'll give you some background too. So
Sure.
the property was subject to eminent domain, right? And in that process, our entrance went in from full in, full out
Mhm.
to right in, right out. And with that whole adjustment, the city granted us access, coming out to this.
On the
back
east side,
on
east end of the
On
property.
the east end of the property. So that was new, right? And at that point, working with the city, and Brunch was continued to do great activity. Again, with an abundance of caution, we put the speed bumps in. That's it.
Yeah.
And if I can add, again, going back in the history of the police reports I asked for, not
Sure.
one report from the police department in that parking lot for an accident.
Totally understand, John.
And I think, Vic, you've been here forever. You've seen what that property used to be,
Mhm.
right? It used to be an industrial building.
No, it's a beautiful facility.
We're very, very proud of what we've contributed to the city. We're very, very proud of the tenants over there and the tax base that it's providing. And we don't bring Mitch
Sure.
to this thinking that it's gonna adversely affect the community or the center anyway whatsoever.
And there's no way you purposely try to do something like that. I've been here, I see the patterns. I mean, I have gone out the back way, and guess what? I'm not going to Brunch Cafe. If you have to write up a citation after tonight, feel free, Paul, but no, but I've gone through and just go to the gas station, pick up my cleaners.
And, that's a testament to it if John said if there's 600 customers that can make it in and out and figure out how to get to Brunch on a Sunday morning, I think, that they will figure out how to resolve the in and out.
And I don't see your issue with the people coming from Lake County, because that's not just a back entrance, that's an entrance. So if you were coming from 120 heading west, you can go to Green Street.
Sure.
Turn by City Hall and come in like you're supposed to. Or if you come from Woodstock, down, let's say, Bull Valley Road, you can make a left turn and turn right in.
Mhm.
Or from downtown at 120 and 31, you're gonna come south on 31, turn left by McDonald's, and that's where Google Maps is gonna take you, because they know you can't turn left in it. And it's really a safe intersection, not having the full access out to 31.
Yeah, okay, you say safe intersection, I don't wanna attack this, but you have speed bumps there, and there's a reason for speed bumps.
We can
Because
take
there's
'em out.
traffic.
We can take 'em out.
Huh?
We can take 'em out.
No, I'm not, there was a reason the reason they were placed in there.
Totally, but
Only
because-
because of an abundance of caution. There's no rules, there's no regulations. I mean, you could put those in at Walmart and
Caution.
Target.
No,
They
and
could
they're
do-
there.
and they
There's
could-
certain places
and-
they're there.
And in all honesty, they were provided as an abundance of caution.
And as far as the tenant support, you all should have letters in your packets.
Mhm.
Every tenant in that center is providing support for the project.
John, when you first came up, or one of the first times you came up, you mentioned to Mitch that he does some architectural drawings for you, correct?
For this center only.
Okay, that was my question. Do
Correct.
you work with him in any other centers? Or any
We
other
did a
drawings
very
for
quick
any other
preliminary,
business
one other spot that he's
plans?
going through zoning.
One other spot that he's going through zoning, also like this?
But it did not, yeah, exactly.
Okay. I'm fine, right, thank you.
Alderwoman Bainey?
First of all, I think we need to exercise a little bit of common sense. Thank you for putting speed bumps in. I see them in all kinds of retail locations, and, as a grandmother and a mother, I appreciate that you just want people to be safe. I'm not sure why that seems like it's a red flag. And this is not a question, if we were to put a fantastic little restaurant in that space, or a great shoe store, and we had a dozen people an hour going in there, we would have a bigger problem than we're going to have with this dispensary. And I'm not quite sure why we are being so super cautious about the number of people going in when any business could go in there and we would have absolutely no say about what they were doing if they didn't ask us for a liquor license. If they were any kind of retail location and it was a hot spot, we could have 30 people going into that location all day long while they're open. So this parking discussion is, I think, starting to get a little tedious, and we're not looking at the fact that this is a retail space or a space for some other type of business where we may not have any control, and there may be even more traffic. There's multiple ways to get into this location, which I think is very favorable. I'm a business owner, and I fully respect the idea that you do, whether we want big signs or we don't, if you're going to run a business, it needs to be profitable, and that means we need to have visibility somewhere on a main strip, not hidden, especially if at some point it's going to become recreational. Our goal here on council is to generate revenue for the city in addition to our other concerns, and I think this location is doing that. And if we double the amount of people that were in McHenry County that had medicinal licenses, if half the people from Lake County came, which they won't because their dispensaries are gonna have less traffic and it's gonna be easier to get into them. If this opens, we would still be okay. We would still see a fraction of what Brunch Cafe is seeing currently and would still be able to accommodate this. So I'm not quite sure why we're diving so deep into a dozen people an hour at the most.
Alderman Schaefer?
I also think that it is in a location that's very close to our police headquarters. It's also very close to the hospital, and it's neighbors to the VA clinic. So I mean, when you consider those things, that's, in my mind, those are also positives, because those are users and good neighbors, so to speak. I just wanted to mention that.
Alderman Glab?
Yeah. Again, like Alderwoman Beatty said, we're talking about the parking and everything else, and maybe we've talked so much about that. But again, where does it belong? It belongs in a medical area. That's where people are gonna be looking for medical marijuana, is in the medical area. It's 3 blocks away or 2 blocks away or whatever. If I come into the city of McHenry and I don't know the city of McHenry and I see a nice big tall hospital and I see a Mercy sign over there and all these other facilities that deal with medical, I'm not looking for Brunch Cafe to say, oh, it's next to Brunch Cafe. I'm looking for a medical place. We're looking at where it makes sense to put it, not where we can accommodate it, but where it should be. And I think that's the issue, at least for me, that's the issue more than anything else, is where should it be, not what could we accommodate.
Anyone else? Alderwoman Beatty?
Yeah, I had a couple other things I just wanted to mention. I appreciate staff pulling together those reports on safety, but I just kind of, and it's interesting that you didn't find that any of them were actually at your location. But that being said, I don't think it's fair to look at one parking lot if we're not comparing it to other retail spaces. If we were to take that parking lot and compare it to where Stefan's Jewelers is in that place, and then, to some other retail places, and maybe compare and see there was more, I could see that being relevant, but just looking at one without comparison didn't seem that way, or else we'd probably be shutting down Home Depot, right? Because that happens to be probably the most dangerous parking lot in McHenry. So when, we've had people die in that parking lot, and we're looking at a dozen accidents in a decade. So I think we need to be cautious at some of that information that we're basing some of these decisions on as well.
And just to be clear, those dozen that you referred to were not in RJ.
Yeah, that's what she said.
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, that wasn't the information that was in our packet, but I'm just saying, even so.
Thank you.
Alderman Schaefer?
Do we have any facts on where, the medical dispensary in Mundeleин's not in a hospital setting?
I personally have not been there.
I don't know of any dispensary that's right next to a hospital.
It's not a requirement by any means from the state or anything.
To be honest, there's
My doctor's not in the hospital, so he's in my office.
Without meaning to sound coy, there's an app for that. So there really is. There is several apps to locate dispensary near you, and most medical patients have an app that will locate the nearest dispensary to them. So it's not as if you have to drive to find the hospital and hope that one is nearby. It's usually a destination location.
Thank you.
Any other questions by council? Alderman Sant?
Do we know the exact location of Mundelein?
Mm-hmm. I'm looking
Is
at
it on,
it right now.
is it on US 45?
It's right off of 60.
Right off of 60?
Yeah, it's, we have in the map, it's plotted on the map, we have the exact distance from the two nearest,
You got it on your map, isn't it?
Right.
Presentation.
Or if not, if it's not in the map that's in our presentation, then it's further than 25 miles out, so it'd be highly unlikely anybody would be traveling that far.
I didn't see it in the presentation.
You know, for the.
Didn't we have a map on it? I
Did you see the map?
apologize. I am, thought I included a map on
60
this, and my
miles
nearest,
from where we are right now.
of the nearest dispensaries.
16.
60, is it on the intersection, 16?
No, it says it's 16 miles from our location right now.
Okay.
And this is the only location you're looking at, right? I mean, you didn't come to
Correct.
council asking us to pick a location for you?
No.
Okay.
I guess, for the record, I wanna see medical marijuana here in the city of McHenry. You know, I do have some concerns about just the traffic and parking, but traffic just going in and out, and how, you know, that parking is designed right now, and the flow of traffic. And then, you know, I wanna take another step and just look into the future and say, okay, come January 1, with a license and potentially opening up that facility, being open at that time. I don't want you to, you know, you don't have to state it, but there's definitely a high probability that they would like to come back with that location and have, you know, recreational there also. And I have no idea what kind of traffic counts or what we're gonna know then. I assume those first few months would be, I mean, could be a mini VFW situation over there. I don't know, but, I mean, you know, you could have some unique traffic in and out.
We can always raise our prices.
Yeah, but you have to, because you might be paying for some police,
Right.
you know,
And
to traffic it.
you know,
And that's so, you know, so the medical is one thing, and then once you gravitate to the recreational, you know, what do we say? Hey, you're doing a great job of medical, but it just doesn't fit, you know, more traffic coming in for recreational and medical in one location like that. And I guess it's taking that first step, knowing that there's a high probability that second step's gonna happen, or at least you can come to council with that second step. That's a concern. You know, and I just can't, you know, I gotta think about that. I can't think about what's tomorrow, but, you know, just one day, but I gotta look at it where it's next year, it's 6 months down, it's a year and a half down. Well, let me ask you, okay, if you wanna answer it, let me ask you this. Okay, you're there, you're medical, doing great. You come back to us in February or March because now you got that recreational. Would you be willing to take that license to a different location in town? The recreational?
Well, first of all, with all due respect to my landlords who are here present,
Okay.
you know, and I have not looked at other, it would cause me to have to actually physically seek out a different location. I'm fairly confident that this location, I'm extremely confident this location suffices, would satisfy all of our needs under either recreational or medical sales scenarios. Whether or not I would seek it out to stay in the town of McHenry, probably. Actually, I do think that McHenry is a great town, so I'm pretty committed to your town, but I'm very committed to their center first and foremost.
Okay, but it sounded like you'd be willing to pull out of that location completely if you had medical and recreational together? Did you, it
So
sounded
I'm-
like you potentially was thinking of that as an option just now, unless I didn't understand you correctly.
I'm just merely indicating to you, just now I wanted to indicate my dedication to the city of McHenry, because I do believe this is a good place for us to do business. And I do believe that we found the right spot to do business in McHenry.
Mhm.
Now, if you were to ask me in doomsday scenarios that, you know, something happens to their center or some, you know, would I consider, you know, all else, you know, no other alternatives? You know, I'd be a fool to say no, I wouldn't, you know, that I wouldn't consider that. Certainly I would, but I am 100% dedicated to this center and this location.
Uh-huh.
It meets all of our needs. It's really what I think is a great location, so.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? You may have a seat. I'm going to go ahead and have public comment regarding this item. Is there anyone in the public that would like to make a public comment? I have Scott Curry on the list. Would you like to say a few words?
Sure.
Sure you know how this works?
I do.
All right.
My name is Scott Curry. I live in the city of McHenry. Yeah, I came here, as a lot of people here know me, I usually do my homework. I have not done my homework on this issue. I just happen to read what most people have read in the paper, most residents have read. And I came because what I read, and then I talked to one other person, but caused me some concern. And the concern, first of all, I don't have a problem with medical marijuana. Okay, I don't know too many people who do, to be honest. So I don't really have an issue with that. I do have an issue with the location. And whether we want to talk about parking or whether we want to, and I learned things tonight, you know, the 1460 or 70 in McHenry County, the 3600 or what so in Lake County, I mean, that's like 5,000. So, and I think that we're early in the infancy of both medical and certainly recreational, since it hasn't started yet. So I think that you can look at those numbers as pretty low. I think they're going to increase. So anybody who's thinking that it's this and it's only this much traffic or whatever, I think within a year or two, you're gonna look at a doubling or tripling of that. That's just my opinion. I got no basis for that gut feeling. And then if you are talking about recreational, you know, I know, as we all do, we know people who use marijuana currently that's not legal, but they will be recreational users, and I suspect, again, I'll just throw it out there, I suspect that it's gonna be 10 or 15, 20 times what medical cards are issued is gonna be recreational. So I think that when you start looking at a concern, and again, I haven't researched it, so I don't know what these concerns are, but I hear the spaces available and the traffic and all that. I haven't done the research on that, but if there are concerns about that, I think you gotta figure, especially if we're talking recreational later, you're talking about like 10 times that number. So if that causes you pause, it should cause you pause. I too think, and a lot of good points are raised tonight, and some good research done, and some good thoughts. I came thinking, you know, it should be in a medical. It's medical, right? Ought to be in a medical or near a medical facility. That's where most medical is. Except, you know, obviously doctors' offices can be standalone and things like that. So that's the opinion I came with. Rightly or wrongly, that's the opinion I came with. But, you know, again, what I read is that the police department has some concerns. And, you know, I was on council for 4 years. There's only one time I disagreed with the police department. Why? Not why I disagreed. Why did I agree with them? All but one time. Was because, by golly, they're pretty right about all of this stuff. They've got good sense. And I think you need to listen to your police department. And I think you need to listen to your staff. It's very unusual for the staff to come and have problems with a business proposal. It's just very unusual. So when I read those things in the paper, and I hear it again tonight, I've become very concerned that, you know, there is such a thing as, you know, there's research, and I'm known for that, but there's also that gut feeling about, is it gonna work or not work? And I think this is a location that's not gonna work. you make anything work, but is it gonna be the greatest place to be? Doesn't sound like it to me. And I had one humorous thought here as I was listening to the gentleman talk. It's like, it's a complimentary use to the brunch cafe, and I found myself wondering, why would that be? Is it because they get the munchies afterwards or something? I mean, I don't understand that, other than any business wants traffic. And so brunch cafe has, whatever the numbers were, 600 people coming and going or whatever. It's a lot of traffic going by your door. So any retail business, certainly that's a good thing for the business. I don't know if it's such a good thing for McHenry. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Anyone else in the public that would like to make a public comment? See none. At this time, I am going to ask.
So the options before the mayor asks for the question is, the way it's phrased on the agenda, just to be clear, is it to vote to either deny the proposed request for conditional use, which is a pretty straightforward motion, or more typically to approve a proposed ordinance in favor of it, subject to the conditions that are listed in the proposed, or the agenda supplement as proposed by the zoning council, and then any others that you would like to add in the proposed ordinance. So it's a motion to deny or a motion to pass an ordinance in favor of it, subject to those conditions and any others.
So at this time, I'm looking for a motion to approve or deny a conditional use permit for the construction and operation of a medical cannabis dispensary at 408 South Illinois Route 31. Alderwoman Bainey.
I'd like to make a motion to approve a conditional use permit for the construction and operation of a medical cannabis dispensary at 408 South Route, Illinois 31.
With the conditions imposed
With the
by zoning.
conditions, yeah.
Okay. Second. Alderwoman Miller.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Discussion on this item? Alderman Schaefer.
Can I just get one clarification to on our page 31, it says the hours of operation is 7 days a week, 10 to 8, but that's been changed, no Sunday hours? Is that correct?
I can address that. So I think when we filled out the application, we just put down 10 to, whatever you said, 10 to 7?
10 to 8.
10 to 8. Forgive me for not being very specific. I believe when I was here for the planning and zoning, I brought the exact hours of our typical operation in Pennsylvania. Like I said before, I kind of wanted to put, I didn't want to restrict ourselves for what I'm asking for. So when I first came out, so when I filled in the application, I said, I need, 10 to 8, 7 days a week. But as we're narrowing this down, I'm realizing, and as I'm understanding the discussion here about brunch, and right now, currently, we aren't open on Sundays. I just didn't want to restrict it.
Okay.
So I didn't mean to be inconsistent.
No, I just wanted clarification on that.
But yeah, right now, we are not open on Sundays, but, didn't want to box myself out if I didn't have to.
Alderman Santee.
Yeah, if, the way motion's made and second, ask, should we have a condition on there that it goes through a final staff approval in regards to hours? Because I know we're kind of jumping around here. Well, he doesn't open on Sundays, and well, maybe we'll open at later in the afternoon on Sundays, or can't we put that in there that it's?
You'd be the point that way.
Oh,
You gotta be talking to the person who made the motion, the person who made the second.
Just to allow the staff to be the final word on the hours?
I actually wouldn't be willing to do that. I
Okay.
don't think that it's really our job to set hours for a business. I think it sounds like they really want to be good neighbors, and and if you had read all of the conversation that happened that was pretty lengthy, the minutes from the planning and zoning meeting, I think it was discussed in detail, that Sunday was slower hours and that they probably wouldn't be opening till the afternoon if they opened at all, to accommodate. I mean, clearly nobody wants to be bad neighbors, so no, I'm not willing to change that motion.
All right, thank you.
Okay, discussion? Anyone else? Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Bainey?
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller?
Yes.
Alderman Santee?
No.
Alderman Glab?
No.
Alderman Schaefer?
Yes.
Alderman Mahevic,
Yes.
Alderman Devine.
Yes.
Good luck.
Well done.
Good luck.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda, I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to Derek to present. Since being this is my item, I'll step up to the podium, or at least into the audience, and just handle it at this point.
Item six is a motion to grant Rise Up Foundation use of Peterson Park setup, host, and cleanup for the Splash Pad benefit concert on Friday, June 19th through Saturday, June 20th. Special event liquor license for the sale of beer, wine, and malt liquor with drink ticket sales to cease 30 minutes prior to the park closure. A 50% reduction of the charges for city services incurred as a result of this event. Director Hobson, do you have anything to add to that?
No, this is a pretty commonplace thing that we're used to between some of the other events that we do. The numbers are probably a little bit larger than, but no larger than I think our largest one. The Chambers had Tesla out there that was an estimated crowd of about 8,500 people that we weren't able to play for. That was, these people all just showed up. If we do get the numbers that come through, similar to that Tesla crowd, at least we'll have, I think the organizers of this event have done an excellent job of meeting with staff initially and making plans to be able to account for those type of numbers on a higher end, both with myself and with the police department. The other unique thing about this particular event is that, the Rise Foundation, Revitalize, Invest, Succeed, and Encourage is a new 501c3, and for this event, all the proceeds would be going directly back to us. And while the Chamber does reinvest into our community, and the Blues Brews and Barbecue, the Rotary Club does reinvest into our community, it's never directly to us. In this instance, we are the sole beneficiary for this initial inaugural event that they're looking to put on.
The other unique thing about this is that the petitioner is the mayor. And he had called me up originally through staff initially, and then of course directly with him, asking if this was an issue. And the only issue that is involved, and most of you know the rules here, is that any elected official cannot have an interest in a financial interest in a contract with the city. This is not a contract with the city, so that's not an issue. But I told him I thought it was important to make sure we had an open discussion about this, to make sure that there were no issues with Wayne and his wife being involved in the sense that they are with this new entity, raising money, certainly not giving it to the city proper, or indirect city events. So I think you should discuss that thoroughly to make sure that's the direction you have, and you have no issues with that. If you do, certainly talk about them. Let's see, there was one more thing. Freudian slide, I don't know where it is. But anyway, I didn't see a problem with it because there's not a contract involved.
I just, one question, just to.
Alderman Sandy.
Thank you. Assistant Mayor McCardle, or I'll address you. Just for the record, the Rise Foundation is a non-for-profit corporation, and trustees board, or who is the Rise Foundation?
I'm the president. My wife Amber is the vice president, and then Sandy Dominique, which is actually my mother, is the secretary.
Okay. And no, that wasn't. Thank you.
Are there any proceeds going to you, your wife, or your mother?
No.
Okay.
You're looking for volunteers too, is that correct?
Yes.
For this, okay.
Oh, I know what the other point was before I forget. The fee, sorry, hold that thought. The fees. The other point I made to the staff is I didn't understand why we were charging a fee if we're taking the whole, maybe it's a wash. If we're taking the whole proceeds, then why would we charge a fee unless it all goes in the same pot?
Yeah.
I've sat on the Fiesta Days board for too many years, for a really long time, and that was my question too, is why are we even charging half the rate for our services when all of the money's coming back to the city? with Fiesta days, that doesn't work that way, and we're charging the same thing. So I would hope that we would be able to waive that for this particular event, and want to say thank you to Mayor Jett actually for, and to your family for stepping up and listening to the community. This is something that everybody really wants, and I think it's really exciting to have found a solution to provide it. So thank you.
Oh, Jeff was first. Alderman Jeff.
Thank you, David. I don't have a problem with the mayor and his wife doing this. The only thing that I caution is two things. One is the money from this event specifically earmarked for something, and in this case, I believe it is. So as long as there's accounting of it through that, it can get dicey. And the other thing is, I'm assuming you're gonna go after sponsorships. It's not all coming from ticket sales and liquor sales. So the sponsorship stuff needs to be transparent, because that involves future city business, existing city business, things like that. You understand?
What's the difference between a sponsor and a donor, right?
The sponsor just gets their logo on the stage, or, beer tents.
Or
whatever.
donors or sponsors.
Either one, there should be a list.
Needs to be,
Yeah.
I mean, people that are doing over, what is the dollar amount that things like that legally have to be?
There isn't one. There isn't one. It's all public record. It's not like public elections.
Right.
Where
The
you
only
actually
thing,
file something.
the point I'm making is,
I see your concern. I mean, and I will tell you, we do have committees. So we have a finance committee, which will hold several people from different banks to be on this committee. The finance committee, I don't have any issues with sharing and being transparent with what was donated. I don't think I think you'll know some major sponsors, and they obviously give generously. But there is also some new businesses that I went towards to try to get them involved in the community that has not really been involved thus far, and I think that's a good thing. They were actually pleased to get involved, but I have no issues of being transparent of what money has been given. I can even provide an update of that if that's. I mean, it's not even needed.
I just think from a, hopefully you know where I come from. If there is a, if I'm opening up a new business somewhere, and and now there's this charity event going on, and I'm a big donor to it. It's the quid pro quo thing. I just want to make sure that it's transparent.
Yeah, but
you're
the
looking
quid,
at me like I'm like deer in the headlights. Yeah.
No, quid pro quo. What's prohibited is what's going on in Chicago is you pay someone to do something, they really don't do anything, and then you get receive something back.
Yeah, this is totally for just transparency.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And I have no issues with that.
Thank you.
Alderman Glad?
All right, let's talk about what the proceeds are supposed to go for. This splash pad, when is that gonna come to council for discussion?
Well, it's initially here. This is a part of this.
So initially it is here right now. So the big question is I've got a question as far as where the water service is coming from.
Through Whispering Oaks Park. It would be a directional bore from the west side of the
From the
road.
west side, you mean where they just put in the new pipes this last year?
We've consulted with our utilities department, and that's the optimal location. That
They just put that in there and improved it for volume a couple months back.
I was assured it presents no problems.
So now my question is where are all these people gonna park? You realize that we have a park that's been there for, what, 20 years now? And the use has grown and grown and grown. Over 20 years, we haven't added one parking spot, okay? I, as a resident going into Whispering Oaks, using Front Royal, how many times a week do you use Front Royal?
At least twice a week I use Front
If you
Royal.
go through the park,
No.
Or to the post office or whatever, okay.
I'm
Mayor,
also a resident.
how often do you go through there?
Quite a
I
bit.
go there at least once, two, maybe three times a day. And on a Saturday or a nice evening, early evening, I gotta worry about the kids that are forever running across that street. I mean, that's kids, you know, they always do that, or they run close to the street. We put the splash pad how close to Front Royal? Why don't we bring it further back? In fact, why don't we build and wait until there's enough money donated to build onto the parking and maybe double size the parking, and then add the splash pad further east of that?
So, if I could, we understand the parking issue. We've talked to an excavator, actually McHenry Heating and Excavating, that was interested in going ahead and excavating that entire area that we, space out to either put gravel and then get another donor to do the asphalt, and we're in the process of that. I'm confident that this event will raise well over the $170,000 mark to cover some other cost for the parking as well.
No, I just, like I said, I can't see going forward without a solid plan of where we're heading and what we're gonna do. I don't wanna see a splash pad over there that's gonna add another 20 or 30% volume of users. As it is right now, we shouldn't even have parking on Front Royal over there because of how much foot traffic we have with the kids from one side to the other. And you don't wanna see kids running in between these cars and everything else out in the street. Are we gonna put speed bumps out there? I mean, come on. And traffic speed through our subdivisions has been a bigger and larger concern of mine. And for a lot of other people in the city, you hear that all the time. You hear complaints. It's probably one of the biggest complaints we have about traffic in the city is the speeds that go through neighborhoods. And this is a neighborhood, even though it's coming right off of 120, people are used to already doing a higher speed. I mean, who does a speed limit? That's the thing. We need to get a hold of our schools and we need to teach them that limit means the max, not the minimum. Because everybody gets upset at you if you're not doing minimum of the speed limit when you get on the streets. And it's not just the city of McHenry, that's just the way the norm is everywhere. But what I'm saying is we really need to look at the safety for the kids. And the first thing we need to do is we need to find parking. We need to get the parking restricted on the Front Royal and make it safe and make it a good project that way.
And that was all of our intentions in a sense around.
I couldn't agree more with it from the safety point of view. That's one of the big things. And to determine the final location, this was just one of the initial, it would be in that area because it was close to utilities. Yes, there would be fencing around. I agree with, possibly for sure limiting parking on Front Royal. We don't want parking there. One of the parks that we visited in this process of trying to figure out what works best for an amenity like this was Caper Park. Caper Park is in Cary off of Three Oaks and Georgetown Road. It ironically was their Fort McHenry. It was a community built park, totally wood park, similar size in a neighborhood. Instead, we chose to keep that character of Fort McHenry. It was important as a community built amenity to maintain that, and we put $200,000 plus into rebuilding that park. They actually tore their whole park down, and so then they put in one of the new playgrounds and added the water, same size, nine feature water splash pad at that point. They also have 5 to 6, depending on the size of their soccer fields, 5 to 6 soccer fields in the middle of this neighborhood, and they allot 60 spaces for it. We have the room to expand our parking, and I agree that it's probably something we definitely should look at. We have the ability to do that here, but when you look at, we don't have soccer fields, there's not other youth sports, it's a playground and potentially a splash pad. There are reasons, and safety is first and foremost, that, why we chose location. This is one that serves our community very well, being right in the center. And I listed some of my reasons for selecting that location in the supplement, but I agree with you on limiting parking on Front Royal, and that we probably should look at expanding parking at Fort McHenry.
But the question is who's gonna pay for it?
Well, and that's where I think either through this event and see what we wind up raising here. And I think there's also some money that we have in our Parks Developer donations that for us to have some skin in the game is not a bad thing, to be able to add an amenity that our community is asking for. This is a free splash pad that they've been asking for.
But they're not asking for it specifically in Whispering Oaks Park, and I'm not saying I don't want it there, but if we're gonna have it there, we wanna make sure that it's safe, and we wanna make sure that the proper accommodations are there as far as in and out, as far as the parking, and again, the safety of the kids moving from the parking lot. If they don't have to cross the road, even better, you know, at all. Again, safety is probably the biggest concern here, more so than anything else. And I think going further east does the job and getting that off of the main road. I really do. Now, the question is why wasn't this brought up to council in the first place?
What?
This whole concept.
We've talked about this as a meeting. We've even had it in our weekly updates.
I understand it, but this is the first I'm seeing of this picture. Okay? I'm just saying, this should have been a discussion at the council level, not just information sent to us, but actual council. And again, whether it's a committee of the whole, and maybe we have all our public, you know, our parks issues brought up at one committee of the whole or whatever, but we should be looking at that, because that, number one, is in my ward. Nobody knows that area as well as I do in this room, I don't think. I mean, because I travel it so many times a day. I'm the guy that everybody kind of cusses and everything else, because I'm the one that never does more than the speed limit as I'm going through, and unless I accidentally forget myself by a couple miles an hour. But and yet, being on the safe side, I still slow down through here because of the wind in Front Royal and the park over there and everything else, especially at certain times when you know the kids are out there. It's a highly visible park. It has a lot of potential, but we need to make sure that it's done and it's done right. And again, the more input that is given, the better the project will be.
Right.
And I don't have a problem with the event. My problem more so than anything else is the fact that if we're gonna do something like this, I wanna make sure that it's done right for not just the city of McHenry, but especially my ward and my neighborhood is Whispering Oaks, because I want the residents to be proud of that, you know. You weren't around, I don't think, 20 years ago when this park first started, were you?
What's that?
You were at school, weren't you, 20
I helped
years
build
ago?
the park.
Did you help? Okay.
I was a college.
But you remember the resistance at the beginning?
You do?
There was a lot of resistance, and there's a lot of them that changed their minds after they saw the park go up and see what it was. And yeah, you're always gonna get some people that aren't going to change their minds, you know, and they're gonna be adamant against it. But there is a bit of pride of some of the residents that live in Whispering Oaks, the fact that that park is there.
I couldn't agree
And we
more.
just wanna make sure that it's done right. Thank you.
I'll ask Bill. So, you know, the topic on the agenda for tonight is in regards to this event. So let's assume that this is approved. How do we then move forward from a staff standpoint and council standpoint to go through that process with the, I mean, this obviously it's a concept, right? It's just a concept plan and a conceptual location. So how do we finish that process?
You know, well, I think that was the initial, I guess, formal discussion from a committee of the whole type item to say, you know, as we go through this discussion, if you don't want it there and tell us go back to the drawing board, that's not, like this concept, this size splash pad, it's a 2,500 square foot, $170,000 amenity, we could pick up and probably find another spot for it. This was, as the director, this was my recommendation, and not just me, we met with our staff and said, all right, where do we think this best fits? But you all might say, we don't like that idea at all, go back to the drawing board. From a fundraising aspect, I don't think that Wayne cares at all. I want to put on this event, and I want to give money back to the council that's going to go towards the splash pad that matches up to what these drawings look like. That's what I don't.
Legend Lakes would be great. Just saying.
See? And so I think, you know, that was part of it. So if there's If you tell me to go back to the drawing board, I don't like that. That's why a lot of this is conceptual, and we said, where will it go, where do we think it will go? Depending on what you say, I could certainly take that back and we'll say, like, I wouldn't mind Legend Lakes either. But for McHenry, the character that it has, it's our most popular playground, all of those things. And, you are a fierce protector of that neighborhood. I think I'm a fierce protector of our parks as well, and wouldn't want to put it in some place that I don't think it's going to be successful, but that's not going to be safe. Safe is I couldn't agree with you more on safety, and that's the utmost thing here.
So what I was getting at is that the concept could be brought back as the process moves forward for the actual input to the location, the layout, the concept, whatever it is, that's important also. In this case, it's the event that's the council's focus.
To reiterate, we're in front of us. We've got a recommendation to approve the event right now, and I appreciate the conceptual drawings and you placed it there, which is great. But tonight we're here to approve the foundation going forward with this event, and I'm very comfortable with it. And how does this? The only one I have seen close up is the one in Crystal Lake. What's the size comparison to that one?
Probably 3 times that.
3 times larger
than Crystal Lake?
The one in Crystal Lake by the park, right?
Yeah, Crystal Lake is small. It only has like 3.
Really?
Yeah, it's very small.
If you know where the Holiday Inn Hotel is.
Yeah.
Okay. I kind of thought they were going to be about the same. Okay, I'm glad I asked. I had no idea. I haven't spent much time in the splash park.
Yeah, if you're in your travels, if you're driving down 31, you take a left on 3 Oaks, and I think it's Georgetown Road. It's one of your first rights.
Just past Sage.
Okay, yeah.
It's a quick drive, and it gives you a real good feel of what this splash pad's footprint would be.
Okay, no, thank you. Okay.
I think we should be more concerned with my park, Andy, where this event's gonna be held. No, just kidding. We can build it. Sure. I'm all for it. I think we should move on.
Do you want to do something with transparency, like have, it is the mayor, he's different than everybody, all the other permittees. You could, like, maybe quarterly or semi-annually filings of all the list of donors. So it's with the city.
Sure.
I think you have to do that as a state law too.
So we have minutes and stuff like that.
Not with the city though.
Not necessarily.
Okay, yeah. No, what he mentioned he was willing to do before was satisfactory to me. I don't know if anybody else feels that way. My only thing is so when I'm doing future business with XYZ company, how much money did they give to the splash pad?
Right. Is that okay?
Yeah, I don't know. Okay. And I don't think the businesses will either. I mean, they're.
And the existing,
it's all public.
When we have Fiesta Days, it's a chamber thing, so we don't have to worry about that stuff. We see, the donors and stuff, and I want to have those donors in this. I just think from a transparency standpoint, we should know who they are at the very minimum.
Yeah. So just every few months, get you a list?
That would be perfect, thank you.
And we haven't even announced who the artists are yet, publicly. We're still working on those.
You're creating quite a social media stir.
That's the whole point. I will tell you, we're well over $130,000 donated towards the project already, as far as towards the event. I could see roughly about $350,000 raised at this event.
How much do those bands cost that you're looking at?
A lot. So I'm funding these artists, but I will say they're well over $400,000.
Okay.
Just for the artists.
Interesting. Thank you.
So Wayne, I see in your description, or in staff's description, and congratulations on giving birth to another 501c. It's basically giving birth, so now you have another child.
I got rid of my other one though, so that's good.
Yeah, so that you are creating an entity to fund projects for children and families as needed. So this is an ongoing legacy charity. So Are you anticipating an annual fundraiser?
I am.
So this will be a reoccurring request to do an annual something at the park to raise money for a specific event or a specific need, or are you thinking a biannual? Are you thinking
Annual.
You're thinking annual. So once a year, we're gonna see Rise Foundation coming in saying, we're gonna have this thing, and you're thinking it's gonna be a June thing, and
That could change, and it all depends on the artist. You know, I actually wish we maybe would've went to September, just because the artists opens up a little bit as far as their touring. But we locked down a few artists that are big enough to what I wanna bring here to raise the funds that we need to bring. I would love to have, we're gonna have local bands too, but in order to, you know, so it all depends on the month, but I think June is a good month, for police staff as well, to where that month doesn't have much going on. As you know, July, August, September are, well, every month is busy for the police, but those months are even more busier, so. I will also tell you that my business name will not be on anything at this event. I think that's important. I'm not doing this for my own benefit for my business. Actually, McHenry Heating is actually one of the major sponsors. I know that's funny, but I went to them, and there's actually another heating company as well. You know, so it's not for me at all. It's you know, my name is offered besides the president of the 501c3.
nothing else, thank you.
Okay, so, I can't remember, do we have a motion?
Well,
Oh, sorry.
but before we, I mean, and I would be happy to make the motion, but I don't know if anyone else wants to talk a little bit about that reduction in charges. I don't know how anyone else felt about it. If I made the motion, I'd make it as is with the whole fee waived. But I'd like to hear what anyone else on council thinks about that.
Is Blues Brew and Barbecue, they do the same thing as the chamber, correct?
They do, and that was, when I prepped the supplement,
Yeah.
I just tried to keep what we're used to seeing, that from the time frames being the same to the fee structure being the same, and that's why it's presented that way. If you choose to vary from that, that's.
And that's also not-for-profit, there's no profit in that event for them. Correct. I mean, it's either scholarship money or like.
For the chamber,
No, Blues Brew and
Blues, Brews and
Barbecue.
Barbecue,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Again, the difference, to Alderwoman Beatty's point, is that in this instance, it's a fundraiser, all those funds are coming to us, and I think that's what David said as well. All the funds are coming to us. The Rotary Club invests in our community, but those funds don't typically come to us.
Is it your intention that the 501c3 will always benefit us?
So it'll be for City of McHenry projects. There might be some times where there's something needed in the community that maybe the council has a good idea on and says, hey, you know what, this needs to happen. I'm open ears with that. I think right now is, you know, as you see the referendum didn't pass, I think we have to provide opportunities for young families. Obviously with the new growth in homes in Legend Lakes and Oaks of Irish Prairie, those are kids that are coming into our community, and there's really not much for kids to do here, as we all know. There's more and more coming, but I think this is important right now as far as this event. And I think there's gonna be money to provide maintenance and so forth for the Parks Department to provide the maintenance on this. It's not tons of maintenance as discussed, but you know, but I think, I'm hoping that this event will be so big that there's gonna be some money or possibly 2 splash pads in the town. And I'm totally fine with raising the money. We don't have to specifically say what park it's going in. I can care less. I think it's important as you 7 vote on where it goes and what kind of design it goes into. You know, I'm fine with that. I don't really care.
I really wanted to raise $500,000 so we could put the main splash pad in at the Merkel Aquatic Center. That'd be great, but
You never know if it's nice out. It could do well.
So I would agree with Alderwoman Beatty that if it's for a McHenry specific benefit, I'm good with waiving the cost of public services. We don't waive them for the Rotary and for the Chamber because those are other entities that money funnels through them and we receive benefit, but it's not coming direct to us. So again, I would be comfortable with the proposal, but I would also like to see that the cost of services be waived if we're receiving 100% of the benefit. I think that's the right thing to do.
But our costs are still there. We're still gonna pay public works, we're still gonna pay police. I prefer to keep it in there at least for this first round. So what, that won't stop the chamber from making a special request or the next foundation that wants to come in, understanding that, yeah, it's going towards the city this time around. We've gone back and forth on this for many years over the chamber and Blues Brew and Barbecue. There's a cost here, and when we start talking about budgets and salaries and issues that are gonna come up every year, this adds to it. I'd love to give it for nothing, but I wanna see that 50% there. At least go through it this year, see exactly what it draws from the police department. If it's a great, if it turns out fantastic, you can definitely look at a couple of splash parks then, even with our costs, because I think when Wayne's a good businessman, I'm sure he's looked at budgets and, he's placed that number in there, and I'm sure that's probably way on the low end in regards to where he has to invest in regards to stage, people that have to run that area, and setting up, concessions and getting that, those issues done. I prefer to see it in there.
Alderwoman Beatty?
I mean, isn't this really a wash? I mean, if we were to charge the foundation, let's just say $100,000 for services, that's $100,000 less that we're going to receive. So at the end of the day, we're just creating more paperwork for everybody, because he's gonna pay us that amount, and that's gonna be less money we get for the splash pad, or he doesn't pay us for the services and we get that additional funds for the splash pad. I don't think there's really any net difference at the end of the day.
Can I say one thing? I mean, it's kind of ironic that Scott Curry is actually here, because he cared so much about the P3 and the partnerships and so forth, and I think this is a partnership. It's from the 501c3 in the city of McHenry, so keep that in mind too, that this is a partnership that I think can grow from year to year. I can guarantee that you're going to be happy with the outcome of the funds raised, but just remember, it is a partnership.
Alderman Schaefer?
Possibly something we could do to satisfy everybody is we're still going to account for all of these for the service charges.
Yes.
I mean, you and Carolyn are going to, so when we come back and say, how much did that event cost from a police standpoint, how much did it cost from Public Works, we will have those figures.
You will know exactly.
By waiving the fees, if we were to waive the fees, we're not losing out on that analytics, correct?
Correct. You'll still know exactly a breakdown from each department, what was expended. And primarily, the two big departments are police, number one, first and foremost, and second, the Parks Department. Public Works does still provide some barricades, but their involvement in our special events at the park has minimized.
Alderman Glad?
Yeah, I was just gonna mention the fact that normally something like the splash pad should be paid by developer donation fees, but of course we cut them in half, and that's not gonna garnish up that much money. Also, all the planning that you wanna do for these 2 days, what happens if you have all these plans and you wind up with torrential rains?
Rain insurance.
Yeah.
That's the risk with any outdoor event.
So what we're doing is we're risking city money, because this is for the city that this organization is doing. So we're not gonna charge the fees when they could go bust on this, and then the city loses out on all the fees, because we'll still have the impacts of a lot of the maintenance and whatnot that'll need to be done.
To an extent, if it's
Yeah,
torrential rain, we're not gonna have police sitting out there.
Well, I don't know how the chief would wind up reacting with the officers that he'd wind up having scheduled and everything else.
Even on slow days right now for like Blues Brews Barbecue, If it's a slow Sunday, it's their discretion, they'll cut officers so that we're not just having a constantly, if we're staffed for 5,000, we're staffed for optimal levels, but we're gonna cut those numbers. If we don't need them, we're not gonna pass along costs unnecessarily.
But what I'm getting at is, I can't see just not charging any fees. I think, if nothing else, we should go with the 50% minimum. And that's my feeling on it.
Alderman Santee?
Do we know what the number was for Fiesta Day? That's 4 days. What Fiesta Days was?
Fiesta Days was around, for that weekend, their bill is usually about $8,000.
Okay, and
So that's 50%.
That's already
Their
50%,
invoice that goes
right?
out to them for all services, police, parks, public works, anything that's incurred by us.
So it was 16 and dropped to
Cut
8?
in half.
And Fiesta Days is 4 days?
Fiesta Days is, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, yeah.
Okay, we're looking at 2 days here? Okay. All right,
And now,
so-
just so I want to be clear and transparent, it is going to be a bigger event, so there's going to be more officers on the ground, and you can contest that, I guess, a little bit, but talking to the chief, we want to make sure that there's enough police on the ground and make sure that it's a safe event. And with the artists we're bringing in, we're not bringing in, some crazy genre, where we're bringing in some music that should be good all around. And I will tell you, this event will, in my eyes, sell out with the artists that we're bringing.
Sure.
To where the tickets are already purchased before the event even takes place. So the monies are, besides liquor sales, that'd be the only thing that we would not get.
So even extreme, it could be 6 or 7?
6 or 7.
1,000 for that fee? I mean, I think 70-80% of it? Because we're talking 4 days for Fiesta Days, this is only 2. Even though it'll be a real big, and normally on when we have officers over there, they're working at a different pay rate for things like Fiesta Days and.
It's time and a half.
It's time and a half.
It's their overtime rate.
Okay, it's their overtime rate. All right, thank you.
I'd put it right around the 12 to 13 mark.
Yeah,
It's just
so
fine.
in the supplement, I think we were around 11.
Okay.
By the time we got
I
it
remember a
together,
number around
so.
11 or something.
But that's just, again, that's an estimate. Once we get closer, we'll
know by
work
ticket
with
counts.
Commander Funk to adjust staffing levels.
So you're saying 11,000 is the full price, or 11,000 would be the discounted price?
Discounted price, right?
No, we
No, that seems really high.
we think the $11,000 will be the whole overtime cost for the police department.
So 5,500.
So 50% of that is
Yeah.
what we're looking at.
Completely estimate at this point.
No, I
Based
understand.
on Blues Brews and Barbecue, based on Fiesta Days, some of the other bills that we put together, staffing levels, we're gonna be in that ballpark estimate right now.
Which seems fairly small to me. I would think, just seeing the excitement in the community right now for this event and the engagement and who the bands are and that sort of thing, I can't imagine if we were to ask our constituents if that was a worthwhile investment to be able to bring something like this to town and build something for our, young children, that the community wouldn't be in full support of that expense.
Okay, if there's nothing else, is there a motion? I guess we have to ask, is there anything from the public, right? Is that what we do? Anything from the public on this issue? No. Okay. Alderman Santee.
Well, I will make the motion as presented in our packet tonight, with the percentage in there.
50% reduction. Second?
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? Roll call?
No, but can I ask a question? If this does not pass because we can't make another motion, Vic would have to make another, I just wanna
No,
just.
you can make another
make
motion.
it.
Sure.
Somebody could make another one.
Sure.
Yeah, you
It's
just
not the same.
So we can make a motion to approve it without the 50%
If it's denied.
this
If this one
didn't
doesn't
pass.
pass, yes. Absolutely.
So can I ask another question? So if we pass it as presented, and we feel generous at some point, can we waive the 50%
Later?
later?
Yes,
And we could do that at any moment,
you can.
No, as long as it's on the agenda.
as long as it's.
Right.
Another
It has to be
agenda
put on
item.
an
Not
agenda.
tonight, but at some point forward.
Yes,
Right.
situation changes.
So we could pass it.
opinions change.
And then bring it back up for discussion, make a motion to waive it and move on.
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. Does that help you, Bobby?
Everybody good on that?
I'm done.
Everybody understand?
I'm done.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and it's-
Okay, Alderman Santee.
Yes.
Alderman Schaefer.
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller.
Yes.
Alderman Devine.
Yes.
Alderman Mahavik.
Yes.
Alderwoman Bainey.
Yes.
Alderman Glad.
Yes.
Thank you.
congratulations, petitioner.
What?
Got what you asked for again.
Now you gotta produce.
Yeah, right?
Thank you.
All right, once I get the artist, lined up, I'll send out something to you guys, so you all know ahead of social media or let's go. Alderman Glenn, you have a question or a motion to adjourn?
No, I just had a fast question, and that's the fact that I brought up last week about the developer signs, and I noticed this weekend they're still out there again. So can we take and send them a fine now, because we have already notified them and they are still doing it?
You will have a variance before you on the.
No,
on the
that's not what I asked. Please.
I know what you asked, but
Okay.
I'm just telling you that
So
you will
what you're
have a
telling me,
variance.
are you or are you not going to fine them?
I am not going to find them.
Okay.
Because I spoke to them and
I'm sorry, council, all I can tell you is we have staff that is not following the ordinances that I've asked to have fined, and they refuse to fine when they have been notified of a violation, and all they're gonna do is come back for a variance later. Now, we've had this ordinance in place for many years that we don't put advertising signs in the right of way other than the city, and I have asked for it to be enforced, and I'm being told that they refuse to enforce it. So, with that, I will make a motion to adjourn, please.
Second? Alderman Santee?
I'll second.
Clerk, please call roll.
Alderman Glad.
Yes.
Alderman Santee.
Yes.
Alderman Schaefer.
Yes.
Alderwoman Bainey.
Yes.
Alderman Mahavik.
Yes.
Alderman Devine.
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller.
Yes.